Welcome to the Double J podcast presented by Lake Central Media. Now, your two favorite podcasters here, Jack Thiel and Giovanni Alcantar. We had, not of a shocking sports week, I should say. Not too many upsets, not too many shocking, alerts. Giovanni, what was your weekend's top takeaway?
Well, before I get to that, I just want to say there wasn't much for the weekend, but that Monday night game last night.
That was insane.
That had to have been one of them. It was one of those games that unfortunately someone had to lose.
That was the craziest game I watched. I mean, there was no defense, but there were defensive touchdowns. And
exactly. Aaron Donald made a big play.
Mahomes had 5 turnovers in that game.
And he had 2 shocking interceptions at the end. One, he was hit, but the second one
I think was forced. I think it was forced, the second one, because he just threw it up and hoped that someone would catch it.
I mean, listen, at that point they had one timeout. Actually, no, at that point they lost. They used that one timeout. Mahomes was just trying to make a play, but I mean, Mahomes he had a great game, but those turnovers, they really came back to bite him.
But the defenses got exposed really bad.
The over-under, this was the highest over-under. I don't know if it was ever, but it was like 66 something. That's something you see in college.
Yeah, that's something you would see like Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. So it was like a Big 12 game.
Yeah, welcome to the Big 12 conference.
Honestly, there was no defense at all. And, it kind of opens the eyes of the Saints with that offense they have. And a defense that is inconsistent in my mind, but a defense that can come up at the right time. So what was your top takeaway, Giovanni?
Andrew Luck is back. Listen. Guess who has more touchdown passes than Patrick Mahomes? There's only one person, than Andrew Luck. Patrick Mahomes.
Is that updated? I feel like Jared Goff has to be up there too after last night's performance.
Well, even then, actually no. I did look that up. Jared Goff does not have more touchdown passes. And total QBR. The only people that have a better total QBR than Andrew Luck is Drew Brees, Patrick Mahomes, Jared Goff, and you're gonna love this one, Mitchell Trubisky. Those are the only quarterbacks ranked ahead of Andrew Luck in total QBR. He has not been sacked since October 4th. The man finally has some help. I've been saying for years, get Andrew Luck some help. Get him an offensive-minded coach. Get him a good GM.
It reminds me of The Longest Yard, the movie. The quarterback comes back in, and the first play, no one blocks for him, and they all come at him. That's what kind of it felt like for Andrew Luck in my mind for these past few years. I mean, his offensive line was really brutal. I mean, I haven't seen anyone get sacked more than Andrew Luck probably since Jay Cutler, and that was ugly. And we saw what happened to Jay Cutler. I mean, he was injured all the time, but it's been a good turnaround for Andrew Luck, I'll admit. He's still got a couple games left, see if he can finish the full season, but right now he's on track to at least finish the year for the Colts, and it would be a remarkably, because what's it been, 2 years since he last played a game? I don't remember the full thing.
He missed all of last season. It's crazy because last year was 3 weeks into the season. Oh, he's gonna be back soon. And
he was never
3 weeks go by.
He was never
3
back.
weeks go by. He
was never back. Everyone's, where is he?
After the bye week,
Where is he? And then, no.
He actually came back in practice last year and then got hurt again.
And he got hurt.
In fact, there was a real question of whether or not Andrew Luck was going to play ever again. And it's just remarkable to see him come back. It's just incredible. So, Jack, what was your biggest takeaway from the weekend?
How about them Chicago Bears? That's part one. Everyone. How about them Notre Dame Fighting Irish? That's part 2. And once again, how about them Chicago Bears? We'll start with the Bears. Oh, my gosh, Giovanni, what a game Sunday night. What a statement win for this young team, for Matt Nagy, first-year head coach. I told you last week on the podcast, you're going to Soldier Field with one of the top defenses in the NFL. There's no way they're going to come out there and survive. And I'll give Vikings credit. They came at the end. And the Bears, in my mind, that's the only thing they struggled at. They let them come back in the game, and that's the only thing Mitch Trubisky did bad. He was the reason why the Vikings were still in the game. He has some mistakes, but he's young. He's going to make mistakes. But, man, that defense, I have never seen that defense or the place in general that electric since the last time they were 7-3 with Jay Cutler. I mean, I haven't seen that defense like that in a long time. Khalil Mack was just like probably his second best game of the year. I mean, his first one in my mind is the Packers game. But Mack was Akeem Hicks. I mean, what a party for him it was. I mean, he showed that he's one of the top linemen in the NFL. I mean, he had a huge game. Kyle Fuller had some great. I mean, Stephon Diggs did break him a little bit, but he did not bad. Eddie Jackson, once again, defensive touchdown. I read this. There were about 14 receivers taken before him in the draft. He has more touchdowns than at least 8 of them, and he's a defensive player.
Wow.
He's done great this year. And what an interception that was. Right at the perfect timing, they get that pick 6. And, man, this Bears team is just fun to watch. I mean, the vibe in this club is just insane. I mean, this team just, like, I don't understand. Like, why is this team clicking all of a sudden? I mean, I never expected to be this, like, soon. I thought maybe 8-8 this year, we'll see what's going on. Maybe they'll struggle a lot. But, geez, Nagy is just showing up. And another thing I was trying to say, it's just the Bears are now a national headline. I mean, we talked about last week. They're now playing Sunday Night Football against the Rams. We said, when was the last time the Bears ever got flexed to a Sunday night game? Well, now it's 2 games they're flexed to a Sunday night game. I mean, it's kind of scaring me because the Bears are actually noticeable. Because I like when the Bears get hated on because it makes me feel better as a fan to watch those critics not say anything bad about the Bears anymore. And I'm okay, enough about the Bears because I like to talk about it. We'll go to Notre Dame. Notre Dame had a huge win in New York at Yankee Stadium in the Shamrock Series against the Syracuse Orange, who averages 44 points a game. And the only point they scored was a field goal with 10 seconds left. They just didn't want to get shut out. I mean, I don't know how you really respond to that, but what a win for Notre Dame. Ian Book was back off his injury. Not his best game in my mind. He was a little strugglish. The offense really did not execute at all. I mean, once again, defense. Defense was huge. Gilmore had 2 interceptions. A young guy who's trying to, start of the year was trying to get some playing time. People got hurt. He got the playing time, and he had Drew Tranquil. I mean, oh my gosh, this dude is like insane. He gets hurt almost every game. I don't know if you see it, Giovanni. There's always a story on him. There's a story by Marty Smith on College Game Day. He has had 3 surgeries in his 5 years at Notre Dame, and he's still playing, and he's a huge part to his team. He's playing with some huge hand casts, 2 huge ankle wraps around him. I mean, he is showing up for Notre Dame, and it's a big game this week. I'm not taking USC lightly, Giovanni. I mean,
you shouldn't.
No, you shouldn't. It's at the Coliseum, which can fit a lot of people. And we know USC season is done. We know it's probably done. But for USC to ruin Notre Dame's chances of being in the playoffs would be a dream for them. It would. So, with all being that said...
Well, let me ask you this, Jack. Does a 12-1 Notre Dame team still make the playoff?
It depends how the rest of the games go. Now, if Oklahoma wins the Big 12, then yes, they're not going to get in. But if Oklahoma loses one of those games, because they're going to have to play West Virginia probably twice in a row. They play them this week and they're probably playing the Big 12 championship. If they lose one of those games, Oklahoma's not going to make the playoffs. I don't see a 2-team making it at all. Let's go to Georgia and Alabama. We all think Alabama's going to win. There's a 2-team loss right there. Georgia. Here we go. Michigan, Ohio State this week. The winner goes to the Big Ten championship. Now, for Notre Dame, you want Michigan to win. You want Michigan to go all the way because you beat Michigan the first year without your starting quarterback and running back. So, I mean, you kind of want Michigan to win that because Michigan kind of takes that 3rd spot if you think of it. Washington State's coming up there. I mean,
UCF.
No. Washington State can make some noise. I mean, they're coming up there too. If Oklahoma loses, Notre Dame loses, I mean, I don't see why they maybe not make it. I mean, I know the Pac-12 is really weak this year, but still, I mean, they have a great quarterback in the name of Gardner Minshew. He's got the mustache heard around the world, I should say. I mean, that's going around, Giovanni. I mean, it's crazy. But if a one-loss Notre Dame team wants to make it, they got to hope a lot of teams lose. And the team that they want to win is Michigan. That's the only team they can hope to win. The rest got to lose, in my mind. I mean, yes, a loss in Notre Dame, a lot of people have criticized their schedule. But if you look at their schedule, they're playing teams that maybe they'll play 2 of the teams will be in the Big Ten championship that they beat, Northwestern and maybe Michigan. Pitt is in the ACC championship, which is actually really surprising. It is insane. Syracuse, I mean, they're not going to play in the ACC championship, but still, they got a high-powered offense, and Notre Dame stopped it. You got to give credit to that. Army's ranked. They haven't played Army, but they've played teams similar that Army has played, so you can kind of look at the comparison of that, I guess. But if you look at Notre Dame, a one-loss Notre Dame team, right now I feel like they have like a 90% chance of making it. Right now, if they lose, I give them like a 30 because it's hard. I mean, committee is really tough on teams. I mean, I remember them putting a one-loss LSU over undefeated Notre Dame, and we saw they value that. So it's going to be tough for Notre Dame. But Brian Kelly said it. Brian Kelly's had a lot of struggles in November, and I've been worried about that this whole year, Giovanni. You can tell by my face. But, it's going to be interesting. Brian Kelly's always preaching, don't worry about the next week, worry about this week. And that's what the team's been doing, and it's been doing great. So we're going to go to the NBA, and the Warriors are looking like the divas, I should say.
I think that's an understatement.
Draymond Green and Kevin Durant are having a lone little cat fight, I should say. Both of them are they still even arguing? Like, it really boiled up last week, Giovanni. And the Warriors, are they in trouble now after the skid they've been on ever since this Draymond Green and Kevin Durant, miscue?
To me, I don't really see that. Listen, right now, of course, this is an issue. But honestly, to me, I've always said this about the regular season. Is it going to matter come playoff time in April? And to me, no. All this proves to me is that Steph Curry is the most valuable player on this team. Ever since Kevin Durant came to the Warriors.
I feel like he's been the most valuable player ever since he joined the team, like when he started to get good, even when Kevin Durant came on.
The Warriors are 21-18 in games without Steph Curry in the lineup. And they get 2.8 fewer three-point shots a game. They shoot 2% worse from the field, and they have 3 less assists per game. That's not a coincidence. They're clearly not the same team when Steph Curry plays. Now, is that saying that
they're done? No. I don't think they're done, but what worries me the most is Kevin Durant's contract. He can option it after this year. Now, do you think this could stir up a lot? And I think, when you have drama on a team like the Warriors, and don't forget, DeMarcus Cousins is still coming back, another drama guy. When you have all this drama on a team, I really feel like that's going to hurt them. I'm not saying they're not going to win. I'm not saying they're not going to do good. All I'm saying is if the Warriors continue to skid and fall because of the drama going on with the team, don't be shocked. I mean, the West is really competitive this year, and we're going to go to that. The Western Conference, it is so messed up. I mean, we'll go at the top, the playoff teams in the West if it ended today. You got number one seed is the Portland Trail Blazers. Number 2, the Memphis Grizzlies, who had the 3rd pick in the NBA draft. Number 3, the Los Angeles Clippers. Then you got the Warriors. Then you got the Thunder, the Nuggets, the Pelicans, and the Lakers. That is a messed up West. And you know who's not on this list, Giovanni? The Spurs.
The Rockets.
The Rockets. The Jazz. What is going on with the West, Giovanni?
Well, listen, about the Warriors, as I said before, they will eventually get together. And the Rockets, I think, are just going through... Listen, I think Carmelo Anthony completely ruined that team. Mm-hmm. I forgot to say this last week. I think it's time for Carmelo Anthony to retire.
I don't know about retiring, maybe a different team. But when you go to the worst defensive team in the NBA, when you're one of the worst defensive players in the NBA, signs aren't pointing to good, Giovanni. Signs are pointing to really bad, and the signs are right. I mean, and also big news. I mean, how about this? The Lakers are really struggling. They signed Tyson Chandler, and now they're creeping up. LeBron James is heating up, had 51 points against his former team, the Miami Heat, and he plays with another former team tomorrow night in the Cleveland Cavs. And the Lakers are heating up, Giovanni. Rondo's out for a little bit, which means more time for Lonzo Ball. Brandon Ingram is kind of showing some signs. Kuzma's been a little quiet. But Tyson Chandler, really the start? Like, what is going on here? It's Tyson Chandler starting a spark in these Lakers?
I mean, it's incredible. And listen, LeBron James is clearly turned this team around. I mean, obviously, he's the best player in the league.
He's the best player in the league.
And he still is in year 16. He leads the league in scoring.
He would change any team he'd go to. That's a fact. I mean, I don't care what team it is. He'd make it at least 15 wins better in my mind. So, college football, the rankings come out tonight. And these are kind of big rankings in my mind because this is one of the best weeks in college football in my mind. You know what week it is, Giovanni? It's rivalry weekend.
It's a great weekend.
And we've got Ohio State, Michigan, West Virginia, Oklahoma. We got Washington State and Washington, Alabama, Auburn, Notre Dame, USC. There's a lot of good games on this week, Giovanni. But who are your top 4 going into this big week of college football?
Well, I don't think anyone's going to know who my number 1 is. It's Alabama. Oh, wait. Everyone has them at number 1.
I mean, they scared a lot of people at halftime against Seattle or whoever they were. That was a little scary.
You know, it amazes me how much people hate Alabama.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I'm not a big fan of Alabama. I wouldn't say I hate them, but I'm not a fan of them. I'll say that.
Number 2, Clemson. I still think they're the only team that can really compete with Alabama at this point. I think Notre Dame and Michigan, if the line came out today and they were going to play in the playoff, Alabama would be a 20-point favorite.
I don't believe in the lines. My theory is if there are top 5 teams playing against each other, like a 1 and 3, I don't believe in lines or odds. You go out there and play. You're top teams. You play. I don't care what the odds say. Maybe if it's like 1 in Alabama, it's a tell game. Maybe that you can look at that. But when you got top teams playing, I don't think the lines matter. You just go out there. Both teams are good, and it matters what they do on the field, not what the lines or spread is. And what is your number 4, Giovanni?
Let's see. Well, I put Notre Dame at number 3, and at number 4, I mean, it's
so no change. So no change for you.
There's really no change.
So
And to me, this is how it's going to finish. Michigan's not going to lose to Ohio State, I don't believe.
But maybe they lose to Northwestern in that Big Ten championship. They had trouble with them earlier. Don't forget. No, I like Northwestern. They're a great team. My top 4, Alabama. I'm going Notre Dame at number 2. I don't care what anyone says. I look at comparison of games. Both teams played Syracuse. Let's get this straight. Let's compare this now. Clemson was at home, won on the last play of the game. Notre Dame played in New York. It was a neutral site game, but Syracuse in New York, so it's kind of a home game for them if you think of it. 36-3. You beat them by 33, and Clemson beat them by 4. Clemson was home. Don't forget, we held them to 3 points. If you look at comparison and strength of record, it goes to Notre Dame. Clemson does not play anyone. They are in the ACC, which is, in my mind, the most disappointing conference of the year. So weak and so disappointing. They had high hopes. Florida State, NC State, you got Clemson, but Pitt, they're picking it up. I mean, imagine if Pitt was terrible. Then it'd be the laughingstock of college football. The ACC is weak, and I don't really think Clemson should be number 2. Don't get me wrong. It's close between Notre Dame and Clemson. But when I compare those games, you look at Notre Dame as the better team. And number 4 is Michigan. They got a top 3 defense in college football. I also put LSU and Notre Dame in that list. Their offense is picking it up. I mean, IU gave them a little scare, I should say. I mean, IU, I don't really know about their football team, but big game this week. It's at Columbus, I'm pretty sure, right?
Yes.
That's a big game. I remember 2 years ago, when like the final seconds or overtime, same records. Only had 1 loss. Yeah, it's going to be a big game. I really have to take Michigan on that one also with you. I mean, Ohio State, they survived. If it weren't for that Maryland 2-point conversion, I mean, the guy was wide open. And he didn't, and it was a terrible pass. But if he catches that, I know it's an if, but still, Ohio State's 2 losses, and they're not going to be even close to the playoffs.
But that's a throw that he has to.
You gotta make that throw. He was wide open. I don't care who you are, you make that throw. But I gotta take Michigan. Their defense, it's so good. But yeah, and then Giovanni, is there a top 10 team that's most likely to lose this week?
You know, I didn't really look at the schedule that much this week because to me, I really don't see these rankings changing that much. But if I had to pick Michigan,
that's a fair comparison. That's a fair one.
Listen, I don't think they're going to lose,
but it's the most likely.
But listen, I never count out Urban Meyer.
Yeah,
I never count out Ohio State, and it's at home. I don't think Michigan's a lock to win this game by any means.
No one's a lock in these rivalry games. It's a rivalry. I don't care what the records are. You're going out there and playing some ball.
It never seems to matter.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like I say, USC Notre Dame. I'm not taking USC lightly. They got some athletes on that team. They got a true freshman at quarterback. Not taking that lightly. For me, Giovanni, I'm taking Oklahoma to take that L this week against those Mountaineers. I really like Will Grier. I think he's a prototype quarterback in the NFL. I like his moxie. I like the swag. I like the arm. I like the ability to make plays. And we saw it against Texas when he did it. That 2-point conversion, runs it in. I like West Virginia on this one. And I also like West Virginia to win that Big 12 championship as well because I like Will Grier. I really like this kid. I mean, he's been a quarterback, I think, for about the last 5 years. I mean, he's been there for a long time. This West Virginia team is for real in my mind. Yes, they have 2 losses. They lost to Oklahoma State just this past week. But I'm telling you, you get Will Grier in those big-time, prime-time games, man, that's when you get that fifth-year quarterback to go out and play some football. Now, we've had some couple of comments about this team these past weeks. UCF beat Cincinnati in a dominating fashion. Is it time for people to recognize the UCF and put them in the college football playoff.
All right, putting them in the playoff, yes, that is ridiculous.
But is it time to recognize them?
It is time to recognize them. Jack, they haven't lost a game in 2 years.
I don't care.
There's a lot to say about that.
I don't care if they're undefeated, if they've won 22, but you got to play some competition. Yes, they beat 24 Cincinnati, but that's nothing to me. It's 24 Cincinnati. If they played a team like Michigan, Notre Dame, Washington State, or Oklahoma, they'd get beat by 10 or more in my mind. I mean, UCF is not ready. And I know they're going to probably go to the bowl game like last year and probably win, but I don't see them being really – I don't think you should recognize them yet. I'm not a big fan of them right now.
Okay. Listen, putting them in the playoff, yes, that is absolutely ridiculous.
No, they should not be – if they make the playoffs, I quit. I'd quit as a college football fan. I really do, Giovanni. Because that is just terrible because they would get blown out. And they would be the 4, if anything. And look who they play the first game. Alabama. And Alabama. Tua would just demolish that team. So we'll go to the NFL, and the first thing we're going to talk about is how about the Chicago Bears once again? I don't remember the last time they had this big of a lead in their division. I mean, 4 straight wins. They were calling their schedule cupcake. Then the Vikings come in, they're going to lose. They have no experience. Trubisky's too young. Nagy's too young. This team's not ready. Well, look who won. Dang, Bears won that game, Giovanni. I mean, what a game it was for the Bears. What a statement win. They got to go to Detroit in 2 days. A very short game and a lot of controversy now around the Bears because Trubisky missed practice. Well, they didn't even practice, but they said if they did practice, he wouldn't have been there. He's got a right shoulder problem, his throwing arm. It was on the play of Harrison Smith at the end of the game where they got called for a late hit. It's going to be interesting to see, Giovanni. These next 2 days we're going to decide if he's going to play, and if he doesn't play, it's all up to the backup, Chase Daniel. And Chase Daniel is not good. Don't get me wrong. But the only thing that gives me hope about Chase Daniel is he's been under this Nagy system for a long time. And, I feel like that's a good thing for him. I mean, he's nowhere close to the ability of Trubisky. But if you've been under Nagy's great offensive scheme for these past years, I got to give him some credit. And I feel like this Bears defense is once again going to come out. They know they're first, and they know they've got to keep this division lead because, look, they're now nationally known. People are actually going to be talking about them. And they're not going to want to be known as a team that were known and now the team that's forgotten.
Listen, they made a statement. They are clearly the team to beat in the NFC North. The Packers have clearly lost their way. The Vikings.
Big game for the Packers.
I'm starting to doubt whether or not starting Kirk Cousins was the right decision. I think it's still a little too early to say. But if the Vikings miss the playoffs, then
if they miss the playoffs,
there's going to be a lot there's going to be a lot of people pointing fingers at each other in the organization.
Bayless says Kirk Cousins, he calls him Kurt, is the most overpaid and overrated quarterback in the NFL. He always says that, and I believe it. Kirk Cousins is not that good of a quarterback in my mind. He hasn't shown me anything that makes him think. Look, the Vikings are 5-4-1. This is the team that almost went to the Super Bowl. They were in the NFC Championship, and now you're 5-4-1 when you lost no one, and you gained a quarterback that was kind of not bad. I mean, he's better than Case Keenum. We can make that. I think we can make that argument. He's better than Case Keenum.
I think the thing for Case Keenum last year, it was basically the perfect situation for him last year.
Oh yes. And the NFC East is actually most wide open division in my mind. I mean, Alex Smith is out for the year with that gruesome injury. Cowboys are only 1 game back, and who do they play this week, Giovanni? The Washington Redskins.
On Thanksgiving.
That's the Cowboys treat, and the Redskins. That's like a good game right there. You've got the Eagles kind of like 2 games back, I'm pretty sure. But I think that who's going to come out and win this NFC East, Giovanni?
Well, I don't think the Redskins should be completely counted out. Yes, losing Alex Smith is...
And Coy and now Mark Sanchez at the quarterback.
Yeah, I just want to say, the Alex Smith injury, and it was
the anniversary of Joe Theismann's.
It was absolutely gruesome. If you want to go watch it online, go ahead. But
don't watch. Johnny, why would you say that, dude? Don't watch that injury. That's gruesome. That's like the Paul George injury. Remember that one?
Oh, my gosh.
But the Cowboys got to be, excited now. I mean... They're looking great right now. Dak Prescott's kind of picking it up. Elliott's getting the ball a lot more. They've got a star receiver in Amari Cooper. Sean Lee was out last week against the Falcons, and they still won. I like the Cowboys in this one, Giovanni. I think they're going to win this division now.
Absolutely. And listen, I don't think Colt McCoy is going to lead the Redskins
Old
to
Texas
many
Long,
wins.
old Texas Longhorn right there. He got hurt in the national championship against Alabama too.
And let's see, the Eagles, they still have a lot to prove in my mind. And listen, the Giants, no, they're not winning this division. They would have to. Let's see. The best they can finish now is 9-7.
They're only 3 games out. So, I mean, a struggling NFC East, but the Giants still got to play the Bears. I remember that's gonna be tough.
And they still have to play the Colts.
That'll be a good game, actually, in my mind. That'll be a high-powered offense game, in my mind, shootout. But, yeah, it's so wide open, Giovanni. I mean, other than a lot of other divisions. And the Ravens are trying to fight for that wild card spot because winning the division is most unlikely now since the Steelers are on a roll. Lamar Jackson starts, and he had a heck of a performance in my mind. And now I'm not talking about the passing game. I'm about that running game. He had about 26 carries for 127 yards.
I believe he broke Tim Tebow's record.
Poor Tim Tebow.
No
Is
respect.
it time that we let Lamar Jackson be the remaining starter for the Ravens?
I mean, why not? The Ravens absolutely need a new look on offense.
In my mind, you keep going, Giovanni, my bad.
They need a new look on offense. Joe Flacco, I thought this year, this is what I thought. I thought Joe Flacco would be motivated out of his mind because they drafted Lamar Jackson in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that this would motivate Joe Flacco, that he would go back to being the quarterback he was.
And they signed RG3.
Yeah, yes. And listen, I'm sure the Ravens were looking for every excuse to start Lamar Jackson. They want to see what they have in him. And they've even ran a few plays with him. But when Joe Flacco is healthy, Lamar Jackson, I think he's going to be the starter going forward.
I got to agree with you, actually, because when you got a quarterback Lamar Jackson, he's like a triple threat. He can catch the ball, too. You know that, right? He can catch. He can run. He's, in my mind...
Tom Brady can't catch.
He cannot catch. We know that one for sure. In my mind, Lamar Jackson's a top 3 running quarterback in the NFL. I give it to Trubisky and Newton. But, man, Jackson can make some moves on his feet, and he makes some plays, and that's what Joe Flacco cannot do because he cannot scramble or get out of that pocket at all. And when you got a quarterback that can scramble, like Rodgers, Trubisky, Newton, you see the plays they make when they get out of the pocket, and they're just running around. You need a quarterback like that. And the Ravens need a quarterback like that because they have had Joe Flacco for how many years? Is it been 6, 7? It's been a long time, Giovanni.
And listen, I get why it's hard to kind of give up on a guy like Joe Flacco. I mean, he was the MVP of a Super Bowl.
Yes, but
so was Nick Foles. But
Lamar Jackson is a better offense fit. And this defense for the Ravens is no joke at all. They're also a good defense as well. So if you want to win and go to that wild card, you start Lamar Jackson because he can make some moves on his feet. And talking about the AFC, and that's going to be a tight race, the Texans are now 7 straight winners. After going 0-3, everyone's like, oh, Deshaun Watson's done. This team's done. Deshaun Watson was a fluke. Deshaun Watson's coming back from last year. He's looking like the old Deshaun Watson. You trade for Demaryius Thomas. J.J. Watt's healthy. DeAndre Hopkins looking like the best receiver in the NFL, honestly. Is it time that we actually talk about the Texans now?
They've won 7 straight. There is a lot to be said about that. I mean, you say yourself, they started 0-3. I can't think of any team ever that started 0-3 and then won 7 straight games. I mean, that is just crazy.
Only other team would probably be like the Patriots. Honestly.
But I still don't trust them in the playoffs.
I kind of do, but I kind of don't. It's kind of weird for me. I think they're going to win a division. I really like Deshaun Watson. Like I said, a quarterback that can move and make plays. And when you got Demaryius Thomas and DeAndre Hopkins, 2 number 1 receivers on a team, and Lamar Miller's kind of getting some touches this week, too. And I thought that was cool to see. You got Tyrann Mathieu as a safety, the Honey Badger, J.J. Watt, Javid Clowney. This team can do some damage, and they got a really easy schedule. And I mean a really easy schedule. The best team they play is 5-5 left on their schedule. They play the Jets, I'm pretty sure. I think the Cowboys. No, the Eagles, Jaguars. They got a pretty easy schedule, Giovanni. So that's why I think they're going to come on that division. You know, it's going to be interesting to see. College basketball kind of, picked up yesterday, I should say. There was the Maui Invitational, which is probably the most hyped tournament in my mind because, now this year it is because look who's playing in it. Duke. And Duke was impressive, but you know who was not impressive to me? Zion. Kind of had his worst game of the year, and I know it's only been 4 games, but when Zion is not doing good, look who picks up for him. R.J. Barrett, who is easily the best player in that team, Giovanni. I don't think anyone else is. I think R.J. Barrett's the best. No. It's time for me to rant. And not really rant, but tell you all listening right now. Stop sleeping on Cam Reddish. He is a purified shooter. He is a great shooter. You all need to stop sleeping on him. I understand he's the third best player on Duke, but I'm telling you, if he would have played, let's say, for Arkansas, he would be averaging 25 points a game. The man can shoot, Giovanni, and the man can play some defense. So Cam Reddish, I'm giving you some love. Hopefully you're listening. I know you're probably not, Cam, but you got to give some love to Cam Reddish. I really like his play.
Could you make the argument that he's benefiting off the fact that he's the third guy in Duke and
that no one pays attention to him?
And defenses are focusing more on Barrett and Williamson.
I think that benefits him, but he's still a purified shooter in my mind. He's a great player. And it's kind of like I like to go to last year. Wendell Carter, he was a great player, but he's in the shadows of Marvin Bagley, So it's kind of hard for him to kind of shine out there. And we always talk about these Duke freshmen, but one freshman we haven't been talking about is Bull, and he has been a tank this year. 2 double-doubles, 2 20-point games. He's averaging 18 points, 10 rebounds a game. And let me tell you, Giovanni, he's 7'3" and skinny. But let me tell you, man, this kid can do some turnaround shooting and hit some threes. He beat Syracuse this past week in the 2K Empire Classic, I think it's called. I don't really remember. But Bull, man, he's a huge player for them. He is averaging a double-double, and it's only been 4 games. And he's playing in a weak Pac-12 in this year, in my mind. So Bull can definitely make some noise other than these Duke freshmen.
Absolutely. Last week,
we were talking about him.
Remember, I said Bull is going to do some big things this year.
He's 7'3". I mean, if you don't have a guy that's at least 6'11", good luck. Good luck. And Villanova, can we talk about them? National champions last year.
Made it to the final 2 out of the last 3 years.
Yeah. Now they're on a 2-game losing streak. Both losses are home. The Michigan one is acceptable. I'll give them that one. But Furman. They lose to Furman at home. Giovanni, Villanova is not looking even close what they did last year, and they have lost, I think, 3 or 4 starters. Javon Queernley is a 5-star recruit. He didn't even get to play last week. He didn't get to play. Your 5-star recruit doesn't play. That is just sad, Giovanni. How do you not play your 5-star recruit? You got to play him.
There's no explanation for that.
And when you
or valid explanation.
And understand they've lost Mikal Bridges, Jalen Brunson, Amari Spellman. They've lost a lot of players, Ronnie. We do notice that. But still, this is a program that gets a lot of great recruits and still have some people coming back from last year. So really, I mean, they got to pick it up. And now it's time for our new segment we've been doing. We started actually last week. Fact or fiction. And our first segment or topic, will the Bears have 5? The Bears will have 5 Pro Bowlers this year.
Fiction.
I go fact. I'll tell him right now.
Is that shocking to anyone?
No, I'm serious. You go to Mac, my bad, Hicks, Eddie Jackson, for sure. Eddie Jackson is definitely
Khalil Mack for sure.
Leonard Floyd, I'm liking this play, and I know I don't know when the voting ends, Giovanni.
I believe it just started.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It just started. But I feel like Bryce Callahan, I know it's a little shocker, but if we're going more, obvious, I'm going to go to Kyle Fuller. Second most interceptions in the league. But Bryce Callahan needs to get talked about. He's playing great. Another one, the Warriors will trade Draymond Green. That's a tough one, isn't it? It's a tough one.
This season, no.
Off
season?
That's a hard one because he's like a cheerleader. He is a cheerleader.
That's one thing to compare him to.
I'm gonna go with fiction because I really don't feel like they are.
All right. Will the White Sox sign Bryce Harper?
That is a fact. That is a fact.
There's absolutely no bias in that at all, except the fact that me and him are White Sox fans.
Fact. He has come to Chicago White Sox, not the Cubs. The Cubs don't have any money for him. They use it on Cole Hamels. He's coming to the White Sox. White Sox or Phillies, but I hope the White Sox. Mike McCarthy will be fired.
Yes, if the Packers
don't make the playoffs, he's gone.
Absolutely,
he is gone. Northwestern will win the Big Ten championship in football.
Stop fiction.
I want to say fact, but
they lost.
I know. Let me finish. I want to say fact, but I don't think so. But this is a Northwestern team that did play Michigan close, but I don't think they will. I mean, it'd be great to see that though. I mean, they're in.
It would be fun for sure. But Northwestern, the game's gonna be playing in Indy too.
That's right. That's kind of a home game for them. I mean, what do you think the other closest team is for that? Purdue? Yeah, probably Purdue, but they're not even in it. Well, if you're comparing, it's going to be Ohio State and Michigan and against Northwestern. Northwestern's easily the home team in that.
Absolutely.
So, Lake Central, our high school, had a basketball game, the first boys basketball game last night. Unfortunately, they fell to those Andrean 59ers for the third year in a row, and one of the highly scouted players this year, he's only a sophomore, named Kyle Ross, had a double-double last night. I think he had 17 points and 12 rebounds, if I'm correct. A big body, 6'7". He went to. I remember seeing he went to Iowa this past fall for a visit. Nick Anderson, I think, led the LC Indians in points. I think he had 13. This is going to be an interesting team for the Indians. You lose 4 starters. What are you going to do? And obviously, last night, they were down 18-5 in that first quarter, and they came back. They were actually only down by 3, and then Drain had that huge third-quarter run. But for this LC team, there's a lot of potential in them, but is the potential actually going to be shown? I mean, they've got shooters, which they haven't had in a while, but the one thing they don't have is a playmaker. Graciano, Relo Smith, Glenn, you can name a bunch of playmakers these past years, but this year, it's not a playmaking team. It's a team. That's a team that's actually going to play as a team, and we haven't seen it in a while. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. And they're really thin in the guard position, so it'll be interesting to see how they attack that.
Well, I spoke to Malaznik before the season, and, one of the things he emphasized is, listen, this is a young team.
It is.
A lot of these guys are seeing varsity minutes for the first time.
You're definitely right. I mean, when we interviewed them, Giovanni, they said, it's going to be new for us. We haven't really played varsity that much. We're kind of used to JV. And a lot of teams in the region are very experienced. You got Crown Point, Munster, Valpo. I mean, these are really experienced teams, and these are going to be great tests for Lake Central. Now, if you all haven't heard, there was some big news in the MLB this past week. The AL MVP was Mookie Betts out of the Boston Red Sox. Congrats to him. What a great player he is. And the NL MVP was one of my own favorite players, Christian Yelich. And, man, was I excited to see that he won MVP. And I'm so happy he got it. He deserved it the most.
Cubs fans will say it's rigged.
If it's rigged, Javi Baez didn't even get one vote for first place. So if you want to talk about rigged, I don't know what you want to talk about. DeGrom had one first place vote. He was the other first place vote, DeGrom. John Smoltz, who called the World Series with Joe Buck, said it was rigged. He said Baez should have won it. No.
Ridiculous.
No. Christian Yelich had the best year by far. And obviously the voters could tell after winning 29, unanimously, 29-30 first place votes. So congrats to Christian Yelich. I know he's not listening right now. I wish he was. It's my twin. I really wish him the best of luck. I hope he can win it next year. That'd be great. 2 years in a row. I actually have his jersey. I ordered it this past week. Not this past week. I actually ordered it 2 months ago. I'm a big Christian Yelich fan. I'm not a Brewers fan, but I'm always hoping for the best for them. But I love Christian Yelich. If he came to the White Sox, man, Giovanni, how my emotions be if he came to the White Sox?
Well, first of all, I would give you a big round of applause because it would be great for you to go. For Christian Yelich to go to the White Sox.
I think, dude, if I were Christian Yelich, I'd love to go play for the Chicago White Sox. If they don't sign Bryce Harper, go get Christian Yelich.
And in case no one picked up on that joke, if you ever seen
if you don't know what I look like, I am basically an 18-year-old version of Christian Yelich right now. Honestly, if you're being honest, and I get a lot of jokes about that one, Giovanni. I had at least like 3 tweets. Congrats, Jack. It was funny.
I texted you that.
You did text me. It was funny. Christian Yelich is just my twin. I have never met him or taken a picture with him before. That's like my bucket list. I want to meet him. That'd be pretty cool. But, congrats to you, Christian. I really applaud you for that season you had. The second half numbers were just amazing. I mean, you balled out. Congrats to the Brewers for winning the NL Central. You guys played great. Hope you guys can do it next year. Now for our final, we'll go to some fantasy football. Giovanni, we actually had some great predictions last week for our fantasy football. Giovanni, who would you add?
Gus Edwards.
I don't know that name. I don't know that name, Giovanni. Who is Gus Edwards?
Well, I think he's going to start over Alex Collins soon.
Oh, he's a running back on the Ravens. Okay, now I know.
Yes, I think.
I didn't know who he was.
I know. I was really waiting to see your reaction.
I did not know who Gus Edwards was. For me, the ad, I'm going to go Notre Dame blood. Josh Adams. Named the starting running back for the Eagles this past week, put up 14.5 in PPR leagues and ESPN. I think it's time to add him. He's projected 12.5 this week against the Giants team that is averaging 4.4 runs giving on a run. So I think Josh Adams could be a great ad for you guys looking for a running back. Maybe you're on a bye because I know Kareem Hunt's on a bye this week. Chiefs are on a bye. So if you need a running back, take a look at Josh Adams. Kick and play. Giovanni, who would you drop?
Chris Hogan. I mean, if you haven't dropped him already, it's time to give up on Chris Hogan. And listen, I said this last week about Dalvin Cook, and look what he did.
Yeah, he was stuffed, and he fumbled.
Yep, and Chris Hogan, I refuse to believe that at this point you haven't found another option. It's time to drop Chris Hogan. He's clearly lost his way in the Patriots receiving corps.
I know the tight end is really thin, but I think it's time to go to Jimmy Graham. I have him. I think it's time. Put up 2.3, came out of the game with a broken thumb. I was going to go with Kyle Rudolph also. Yeah, I haven't heard of him in a while, but Jimmy Graham, I really had high hopes for him taking him, but he's done nothing for me, and it's really been my team taking over. Giovanni, who would you play? A guy maybe people won't expect you to play.
This week it's not as shocking, but Marlon Mack. He has a great matchup this week in the Miami Dolphins.
Marlon Mack has been a stud for the Colts, I'll admit that.
Yep, and I think you can expect him to have a big game this week. He's had some pretty big games this year.
Yeah, I think when against the Raiders, was that him? Against the Raiders, he had a huge game.
Yes, and against the Bills.
The Bills aren't that hard to do good against Giovanni, but still,
he has a good matchup in the Dolphins.
He does have a good matchup, and that's what intrigues you the most. For me, I'm gonna go Reynolds. I don't really remember his first name. On the Rams, he put up 20 points in PPR the last time I checked for the Rams. The Rams got a high-powered offense. Cooper Kupp out for the year. I think you got to play him. Giovanni, who would you drop? Or not drop? Who would you sit? Who would you sit this week?
Again, I'm saying this, but some fantasy owners might not have another option except to play him. Rashad Penny.
Man, I haven't heard that name in a long time.
Yeah, he was the Seahawks.
I haven't heard that name in a while.
I believe he was a first-round pick for the Seattle Seahawks. Yeah, it's
kind of the Chris Carson show. For me, it's Matt Stafford. He's got the Bears this week. Matt Stafford, I'm sorry, buddy, you ain't going to do anything against them. I mean, Galladay's questionable to play. So is Marvin Jones Jr. Kind of like they're two offensive players that do stuff for him. So really, it's kind of I got to go with the Matt Stafford on this one.
And just to add, if you are going to sit Matt Stafford, I mean, listen,
it
might be a gutsy play, but Lamar Jackson.
Who does the Ravens? Do you know who the Ravens play this week?
The Ravens, I believe.
Because they don't play a good defense, and if he's starting, then I'm agreeing with you. You go play him. But yeah, I thank you all for listening to the Double J podcast. We will be back next Tuesday. Don't forget to follow us on social media. We're on Twitter, SoundCloud, Apple Music, and Spotify. Our Twitter is Double J Podcast. Give us some questions. We'll answer them. We always can take some guests on the show. We're intrigued to hear some other people's takes besides ours because I'm sure you guys are tired of hearing us. You may want to hear some fresh voices. So thank you for all tuning in to the Double J Podcast presented by Lake Central Media.